What is SAFHER?
What is SAFHER?
What is SAFHER?
What is SAFHER?
SAFHER is an acronym we use to describe a system that we're intending to develop at some point, a regulatory system.
SAFHER is the System for Agriculture, Food, Health, E-Inspections and Registration.
But beyond just the acronym, SAFHER is an initiative between the Association of Food and Drug Officials and the state regulatory programs to create a harmonized, adaptable database that will support our regulatory program needs.
The goal is for it to be the system that'll take us into the future and meet our needs moving forward.
What is the problem SAFHER is solving?
SAFHER is solving a huge problem that we've run into in the last couple of years.
State programs are using electronic systems that are legacy systems, and we have outgrown them.
Food and agriculture agencies in the United States have not had the resources to invest in modern technology. And because of this impacts our ability to provide services to the businesses we regulate and to the public we serve.
In that many of us have aging systems that are difficult to continue to maintain, that are built on aging architectures that aren't efficient, and are hard to add capabilities to that we need in today's world.
I would say that the problem that SAFHER is solving is really to address the problems we have nationwide with our state regulatory programs that have systems that are really siloed. Their systems are pretty antiquated, they're old, and in some cases, they're frankly falling apart.
So we came up with the idea to create this platform called SAFHER, which is much needed. And there really wasn't anything out there in the industry that would solve that problem for us. Each state was doing things individually, which is really how things normally work. I've worked in other agencies in the state, and this is what states do. And vendors do really well with that because they can go around to each state and resell their same solution with a little bit of customization. Very expensive for the states, very great for the vendors. We really wanted to break that mold, and this initiative really does that.
Who will be involved in SAFHER?
Really, that's one of the more exciting parts about this project. Is it is an immensely collaborative initiative, all the way from AFDO to AFCO to other regulatory associations. We really have federal support, industry support. When we get down to the development, we're going to have a significant number of program managers, project managers, IT specialists, as well as change agents and procurement specialists.
Well, we really hope that the majority of states will be involved with this, the states that regulate agriculture and food safety.
SAFHER is going to include participation from, I think, all the stakeholders. SAFHER needs to take into account the perspectives from our regulators, from all programs that are going to be represented, from industry, from the regulated industry, because they have, their perspective on what they need from their side to be able to access our systems to review their accounts and buy their permits and licenses and do their registration. So it's really important that everybody has input in how this is developed.
Well, and the advantages for the states is this group, this collaborative effort is made up of 10 states right now that have moved this forward, that have spent years already developing the concept, working with consultants to basically ready the platform to move forward.
Another very important group of stakeholders that will be involved in SAFHER are the consumers that we serve, the public that we serve. This is going to provide a platform to more quickly and easily engage with food safety professionals. If you've got questions, if you need help, it really is going to be a great tool for the consumers and the public.
How will SAFHER be developed?
SAFHER will be developed predominantly, one word that comes to mind is it's really going to be a collaborative effort.
SAFHER will be developed by gathering input from all the stakeholder groups to determine, what the requirements are, so that we have a good starting point when a vendor is selected to build this system. They have pre-knowledge of really what we're looking for instead of developing from scratch.
So we're taking a pretty thorough process with our stakeholders to develop SAFHER. It has involved extensive interviews of how processes are done and where we want to go in the future. It has involved talking to a wide variety of types of programs to make sure that we're thinking about all the needs moving forward. And it also has involved a lot of stakeholder input. These ideas are all being captured, and we'll continue to receive feedback moving forward to make sure that the solution moves into the future in a way that works for the stakeholders.
SAFHER will be developed by working with the state programs and mapping processes and flows in order to understand the needs of the program and the core foundations which we all share in common. It will then allow for that database to be adaptable to the needs that we don't share in common. It will provide us with real-time data that is usable and accessible and is outwardly public as well.
So we know how it will be developed, probably in a traditional way, in that we've developed a lot of requirements with multiple states, and we're going to put it out to bid and find a vendor that will fit our needs. And there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of interest to participate in this. And then as we go forward and develop it, we'll probably do it in what they call an agile methodology. So working very closely with the business community and the ultimate users of the system, so potentially the public as well, and do little short, what we call sprints. So we'll do a little bit with the developers, and then we show it to the business, and they say thumbs up, or we don't like it, or we're sort of, and then we improve on that. So it's a proven methodology, works very well, and we're very optimistic that we should have a really positive outcome.
With input from all of us, that SAFHER will be built in a way that is easy for us to move forward, work with modern technology, and accomplish all of the work that we do from the field and office with our regulated industry.
How will SAFHER be governed?
How will SAFHER be governed?
How will SAFHER be governed?
Well, it's a great question, and that's one that the governing council today that started working on this, 10 states of IT and business professionals in the industry, and we've kept that at the top of our list. So this part we're governing in a very collaborative way. How the future governing happens is really going to be decided by the states and the bodies and all the stakeholders. Really, AFDO has played a key role in making this happen for us, and other federal entities are as well. And I think working with them, we'll find a really good way that it's going to be governed by the people, for the people, so to speak.
Moving forward, there will be user groups made up of program representatives that will provide feedback and ideas to be considered by an executive council who will help to prioritize decisions for SAFHER.
SAFHER will be governed in the way that it's being developed, in a very grassroots effort. So we have all of the agencies that are going to be using the platform. They will have a say in how it's being developed, tweaks that need to be made, and this will roll up into a a governance committee, some sort of executive governance committee that will take those ideas and suggestions and really dive in, do the research, and make decisions that make sense for the platform as a whole. We still have some details to figure out, but those central tenets of we want to make sure that the users are heard, it's working for all of the users, and we're making really smart decisions. Those things are going to be at the heart of how SAFHER is governed.
These user groups are going to provide a chance for every state to provide their opinion and their voices on various matters, in which then the user groups will then funnel up the issues and the decisions and the questions up to a semblance of a governing council that will look more broadly and holistically at the implementation of the project.
Why do I believe in SAFHER?
Why do I believe in SAFHER?
Why do I believe in SAFHER? Even though a lot of our states and programs may be different, we also have a lot of similarities, and it's important to work together as states with our federal partners and with our stakeholders to identify the best solution moving forward that will increase efficiency, provide the solution that we need, and let us grow into the future.
I believe in SAFHER because from the get-go, the concept has been really user-driven and built. I think there's going to be ownership in the platform because of all of the input from all the stakeholder groups that are involved.
I really believe in this platform, in SAFHER, because when we started this process, when you think about all of the state and territorial agencies, different jurisdictions, different laws, you might think, oh, how are we going to pull this together? Because everybody's doing something differently. But the fascinating thing, the really exciting thing is that when we did the research, we looked at the processes and the needs, across the board, over 80% of us are essentially doing things the same way or have the same needs. And so this is an opportunity to leverage that to create a successful platform, create a successful system. We all have the same goal of a safe food supply. And I'm really excited. I really believe that SAFHER is going to have an amazing impact for us to meet that goal.
I think if we were to do this individually as individual programs for individual states, the cost would be astronomical and we wouldn't be able to do it. So I think that it's better that we're going at it from this approach, trying to build large scale across multiple agencies in multiple states.
And coming together with AFTO and Steve Mandernack and then all the other folks that had a real need out in the industry, and talking with other CIOs in other states through the SATO organization, which is the State Agriculture Technology Officers Organization, it really was apparent that we had an opportunity to do something really tremendous collaboratively. And I believe in SAFHER because we've put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we've made a lot of progress to creating that and to getting to that point where we are today. We're on the launching pad and we're ready to go. From a financial perspective, it allows us to do something that most states can't do just because they don't have the $20 million it would cost to build their own system, which is almost impossible. For some reason, departments of agriculture, food safety, they just don't have that money laying around. So from a financial perspective, it's really pleasing. I really like the idea of it bringing the industry together in that other states do a lot of the same things that Colorado does, and we can take advantage of that overlap and we can get economies of scale. by doing things together, and we can speak with a much louder voice to the various entities that we have to we work with, whether they're federal or other states, or the vendors we work with, which there's a tremendous amount of them. It just makes no sense to me to build, for each state to build these things individually when we can do it together.
The three most common questions I get about SAFHER are, what are the funding sources? What's the cost going to be to me as a state? And what's the timeline for implementation? Funding sources, we anticipate the largest portion of funding being from the federal government. We've had great conversations with the federal agencies, particularly FDA. We've also been in conversations with the House and Senate Appropriations Committees, and we continue those conversations. We're getting really positive feedback. We're also very pleased that SAFHER was included as a key metric under the Mutual Reliance for the FDA in their performance plan for the next 5 years. In addition, the Safe Food Coalition, which is many of the consumer groups, have also included SAFHER as a funding need from Congress. So we think that we have a good momentum going there, and we'll continue that work. The second question is, what's the cost to me as a state? Well, the cost to you is really going to vary depending on what your needs are. So if you're a state that has 1 or 2 programs in SAFHER, your cost will be less than the states that have many programs in SAFHER. The other piece that will affect that is how much individualized configuration your state requires. If you're able to use the, I don't want to say the off-the-shelf model, but the model for that particular inspection program largely, or that particular licensing program largely, and not need a lot of customization, you will require less cost on your end than it will require for others that require significant amounts of customization. One of the things that we've been hearing from the users as we talk to them across the country is, if someone else has a better method of doing this, we're pretty willing to adjust and to change that. So we see this as a great opportunity to move to some level of consistency and adopt some of the best practices that have been implemented at states across the country, so that we can make it more uniform everywhere. The next question is, what's the cost to me? So the cost to you is going to be arranged. You'll have some sort of annual licensing support cost, and you'll also have some sort of ongoing of implementation cost. The implementation costs probably are going to range somewhere between $85,000 to $150,000, once again, be depending on the program and the final RFP. So for budgeting purposes, if you look at your program and your complexity of programs, if you have a lot of programs, maybe you want to go a little bit higher than that as you start preparing your budget request. If you don't have a lot of programs, then maybe it's on the lower end of that spectrum, and if you don't require a lot of customization. As far as the licensing fees, once again, we won't know that until we get the RFP completed, but it's probably going to be relatively dependent on the number of users in your state. So if you have a lot of users, you probably are going to have a higher licensing fee than if you don't have a lot of users. So think of those sort of things. Once again, though, in a round ballpark figure, I would just assume that you're going to have somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 of annual licensing costs. We hope that it'll be less, but and once again, state size really is dependent on that. But start using those as some ballpark numbers to think about. Now, the last question is timeline. Timeline is really dependent upon funding. So when we receive the funding for this project, it will take us about 18 months to move to implementation. During that 18 months, we'll be doing things like the RFP and getting an official contractor. Secondly, we'll be doing the pilot phase, and we'll be building out the standardized model for many of these programs so that as we move into implementation phase, we're ready. In addition, though, just because we don't have the funding secured yet doesn't mean we're not working. We're actually doing a lot of the planning work right now. So many of you have seen things like the process flow diagrams for areas such as the animal feed area or animal food area. That's one example of the preparation we do. The more preparation we do in advance of the selection of and issuance of the RFP, the better the end product will be. One, we'll be able to get a more precise bid when we do the RFP out. And secondly, we're more prepared with the requirements, essentially, and what we're looking for when it comes time to implement. The other thing that will happen during this period of planning is really building the implementation groups. So we're going to be building those user communities in each area that'll really be focused on the actual development out of the requirements. With that, one last piece I would like to add is this is a concept that I absolutely believe in. We saw this work with USA Plants and USA Food Safety. Look at the sheer number of states that entered those programs because they saw a functioning system that really brought together all the work that they were doing. While that technology is aging out now, we see the potential of taking what was done there and leveraging it to something even better. So really building out a system meant for this customization purpose, building a system that's working to build the best practices of the states across this country together to make a system that really works to promote those uniformity and best practices and do the best possible programs that they can. So we're very excited about the SAFHER program. The concept makes sense. We've already proven the concept with USA Food Safety and USA Plants. Now it's time to move to the next step and fund the system and implement the system.